Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today I'm looking at some 2026 Dynasty stashes. As always, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Let's go. So, my first player, Jalen Coker, who I think is talked about a lot. And I will say it has not been the best year so far for Jalen Coker, but I do think that there's some positives coming. So this year in 4 games, 7 catches, 66 yards, 11 targets, 1.8 catches, and 16.5 yards a game. He really hasn't done anything. He was coming off an injury. It just kind of didn't go well. Bryce Young has been abysmal. And yeah, if you were in the Patreon, you would know exactly how bad I think Bryce Young is. It's really bad. But I did like what Coker showed last year. So last year, he averaged 2.9 catches and 43.5 yards a game. That's just pretty good. And if you exclude the one game where he played 10% of the snaps before he really had a role, 3.2 catches and 47.8 yards a game after that, which is strong for a rookie. I like what I saw from Jalen Coker. I don't think Bryce Young is going to be next year's quarterback for the Panthers. Bryce Young is a joke, an embarrassment, and it's bad. So we're looking, again, by definition, these are deep players, right? I mean, we're not going to have any obvious players on here. But Coker is someone who produced when he had the chance. I've learned also when players are injured, and this is something I talk about on the Patreon quite often, sometimes it would just be better if they didn't play. Coker's clearly come back this year. Hasn't quite been right. And I think he's going to be more penalized for that in dynasty value than he would have been if he had just sat out entirely, if he hadn't played. So I think that's something to keep in mind with Jalen Coker. I do think with a better quarterback, of which any quarterback would be better, he could do better next year. Now, my next player, Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson is someone I think is interesting. I think the path is kind of narrow, but I do kind of like some of what we've seen from Dylan Sampson. So I don't like the 30 carries for 47 yards. That's really bad. Like really, really, really bad. It's hard to be that bad. But I do like the 21 catches, 136 yards and a touchdown. I like seeing the passing game roll, and I kind of like the future of Sampson. So again, the strong passing game role, which I talked about. And he's a very young player. I liked Sampson in the pre-draft process. He has 4th-round draft capital. He turned 21 in September. Is there room for him to develop as a runner? Sure. Is he going to be a great NFL runner? Probably not. Probably the best you're hoping for is average. But the passing game role is there. Jerome Ford is a free agent. And at the end of the day, I think they spent capital on Sampson to say that Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson is their backfield probably next year. That's what they want to do. And, it's a role. It's a valuable role that could have some flex appeal if the Browns offense is less bad than it is right now. And running backs who've shown any potential for dynasty value are not players you want to drop. They're players you want to stash and hang on to. Because at running back, all it takes is an injury. And like we saw with Dylan Sampson in week 1, he could have fantasy value at that time. Now, next player, Terrance Ferguson. Terrance Ferguson is interesting. Honestly, wasn't my favorite in the pre-draft process, and that's probably being kind. I was not a fan of Terrance Ferguson. But he has kind of shown something recently. So in 7 games, 5 catches, 138 yards, a touchdown on 11 targets, 0.7 catches, and 19.7 yards a game. Now, that's not that exciting. But if we look a little bit deeper, the Rams are deploying some 12 and even some 13 personnel. So in case you don't know what that means, the second number is the number of tight ends on the field. The first number, the number of running backs. So they're having formations with 2 and sometimes 3 tight ends present on the field. Now, that means that there's more time for Terrance Ferguson. The problem is that 4 tight ends have been playing. Ferguson, Higbee, Colby Parkinson, and David Allen have all seen playing time. However, Of those players, Tyler Higbee is the top receiving tight end right now. But the other two guys, while they do see some receptions, they're being used more as blockers, less to run routes. Ferguson, to me, is the successor to the Tyler Higbee role, whatever that is. And he's had at least 3 targets and 31 receiving yards in each of the last 3 games. Tyler Higbee is old. Tyler Higbee looks kind of washed. I don't think Tyler Higbee is going to be there next year. So Ferguson's role is increasing. We're seeing some 12 and 13 personnel from the Rams, and I'm not sure that that's going to change. And Tyler Higbee could be gone. So is Terrance Ferguson ever going to be relevant this year? No, I don't think so. Because as long as 4 tight ends are seeing playing time, we're not going to want to start any one of them. This is like another version of the Steelers tight ends, except it's worse because the Rams have Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. So there's no room for whatever part of a 4 tight end rotation to be fantasy relevant. But we're talking about 2026 Dynasty stashes. And like I say on the Patreon, you want to get a value edge on your league mates. And Terrance Ferguson is someone who is showing me something. I like what I'm seeing in the little bit of opportunity he has. So for those reasons, he could be a player that over the offseason gains some value. Maybe you trade him at that point. That's a lot of what we talk about with these dynasty stashes. Sometimes we're stashing to trade. Sometimes we're stashing to hold. With him, it could go either way. But he's a player, I think, who could gain some value even before we get to the 2026 season. Now, if you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon, which I've been mentioning throughout the video a little bit. I'm offering a 50% discount off your first month at all tiers using the code TylerYT50. You can get all my rankings, including weekly start sit and dynasty rankings, access to the Discord, all my write-ups where I post all of my dynasty takes, and that's available at all tiers. Patreon-only videos, direct message fantasy advice where I help you with your teams, and the ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube videos, which you'll see at the end of every video, including this one. Tiers begin at just $6 a month, $3 with the discount. And if you want to know more about the Patreon, check out my why you should join the Patreon videos on the channel. And again, I have really taken a step back from Twitter, X. I just launched a new feature on the Discord where I post my dynasty takes there so you can get a record of everything I'm saying. That's something else I'm going to do there to deliver for the patrons. At the end of the day, I'm not going to be able to cover everything on these YouTube videos. I've given up on X, Twitter. It's a cesspool. I don't know why I would want to be posting there more to interact with bots and scammers. That doesn't sound so good. So I'm focusing on posting more on the Patreon, delivering more takes, my takes on everything. I cover everything in the write-ups. I cover every single game, every dynasty relevant player. So it's all covered. But I'm also going to post additional takes based on injuries, trades, signings, other stuff, and make sure there's a record of all of that in the Discord. So that'll be something to look for as well. And again, I'm just delivering the best actionable content for the patrons. And that's something where I'm going to be focusing most of my extra energy will be on Patreon. So again, patreon.com/fantasy advice. Use code TylerYT50 for 50% off your first month. And with that said, I'll move into my next player. Now, my next player is Michael Wilson. And I think this is a little bit of a blend of a 2024 or 2025 and 2026 dynasty stash. Wilson this year has been meh. I mean, 22 catches, 231 yards, touchdown, 38 targets, 2.4 catches, and 25.7 yards a game. He's had kind of a similar problem as Marvin Harrison Jr. did with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray was just not good. It wasn't working. Now, though, I do think Wilson has an opportunity to show something with Marvin Harrison Jr. out. He's going to miss some time with the appendectomy. We have no idea how long that's going to be. It's going to be at least this week. We're going to see after that. Zay Jones is also out with an Achilles tear. So for those reasons, I think Michael Wilson could show something and gain some value. He's coming up on the end of his rookie contract. I don't know if this regime really likes him, but he has shown to me that he's a decent NFL wide receiver. He was pretty good as a rookie, and then it's just kind of tailed off from there because Marvin Harrison Jr. has come in, Trey McBride has come on, and it's just kind of pushed Michael Wilson down a little bit. But this is a player that I wouldn't drop in your dynasty league. I would try to hang on to him and see what happens over the next few weeks. Maybe he'll gain some value heading into 2026. Now, my final player, Isaac Guerendo. And I mostly bring up Guerendo because I could see him being dropped in dynasty leagues. I would not recommend doing that. That would be a mistake. I don't want to ever, and this is something I talk about on the Patreon a lot, and I'll talk about it here too. I don't want to ever drop a running back who has been fantasy relevant recently. I don't want to do that. Even if the path seems thin. Look, he hasn't recorded a single offensive statistic this year. He hasn't even been on the field. So there's been a zero, nothing from him. But it wasn't that long ago that Isaac Guerendo was being talked about in a relevant fashion. Last year, he had 84 carries, 420 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 15 catches for 152 yards. He had 3 starts last year. Now, I remember those starts because he averaged over 100 total yards per game in those contests. He was very fantasy relevant, very involved in the passing game, scoring touchdowns. He was extremely relevant. Now, I know he has just been totally X'd out of existence this year, but Brian Robinson is a free agent. I don't think they're going to be able to keep him. I think other teams will be more interested in paying Robinson as a true 1B. And at the end of the day, on the 49ers, Robinson is backup. And I don't think they're going to be able to keep him. And you just don't want to give up on running backs who are not old, who are on a good offense, who were very effective when they played. I won't cut Guerendo in Dynasty. Not cutting him. I don't want to wish an injury on Christian McCaffrey, but the idea that Christian McCaffrey could have an injury is not far-fetched. Would Guerendo see some time if CMC went down? I think so. I think it would be a split between Robinson and Guerendo. And I just think that this is the type of player who you just don't know what's going to happen. And this is the type of running back who's, it's not a maybe, it's not if. We know he can do it. He's done it before. So someone I would want to stash, not someone I would ever consider cutting in your standard dynasty leagues. Isaac Guerendo would be a dynasty stash for me. All right, so I'll go into the Patreon questions and then I'll wrap up the show. We commonly hear and use the terms hit and breakout, but I've never really heard anyone define the terms in a quantitative context. How would you quantitatively define said terms? You're going to be disappointed by my answer. There is no way to do that. There's no way to do that for a lot of reasons. One, because there are, how do you define a hit? Do you use points per game? Do you use overall finish? What if someone gets injured? It's just, I wish it were that easy, but it's not. Unfortunately, it's not. The simplest thing I could do for a hit is for, let's say, a rookie. I think the easiest way to look at it is, did they gain dynasty value from where you picked them or where you rank them to where they are after a year? That would, I think that's a very clear thing. If they did, they're a hit. If they didn't, they weren't. That's pretty clear. As for a breakout, again, no real way to quantitatively define that. I mean, I think a breakout is a significant difference in scoring from the previous year to the next. Now, what's significant? I think that that's up for a lot of debate, right? I mean, I don't think it's really important to nitpick over what counts and what doesn't. I think, JSN in year 3 is clearly a breakout, right? So, unfortunately, I'm going to disappoint you and say that I don't have a great, nor do I myself in my strategy use a quantitative definition for either of those terms. I sadly am with everyone else and apply those terms, except for the value hit of a rookie. That's the one thing. But even that is based on value, not based on stats on the field. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to disappoint you, sadly. Has RJ Harvey been effective on the limited touches he's received, or is he both inefficient and bad at getting volume? Well, he's not bad. He hasn't gotten a lot of volume. He's had 5 carries a game. That's That's not acceptable. That's more than just J.K. Dobbins is keeping him off the field. He's not earning touches. 5 carries a game is not good enough. He's been okay, but J.K. Dobbins has been better than him. So he's been outperformed by J.K. Dobbins on the ground. The receiving usage is nice, but the 4 touchdowns on 25 receptions is not something we can expect moving forward. So to me, RJ Harvey's been okay, but RJ Harvey was a bad prospect. RJ Harvey was old. RJ Harvey didn't really show me being a workhorse in college in the way that I would like. So I think he could be fine. I think he might be decent filling in for J.K. Dobbins, but RJ Harvey is not Trevion Henderson. I don't buy it. I don't buy that RJ Harvey can be an RB1 at all for an extended period of time. That's never going to be the plan. Doesn't mean it can't happen if there are injuries. If there are injuries in running back position, sometimes you're left with no choice. Someone gets everything. But it is never going to be the plan to give RJ Harvey RB1 usage. Whereas someone like Trevion Henderson could earn that. He is good enough. He is a very good player. Speaking of Trevion Henderson, should we be looking to sell high on Trevion Henderson in Dynasty? So the question is, when it comes to a sell high, is always for what? Yes, I'm open to selling Trevion Henderson. Do I think that Trevion Henderson is going to be ever valued near Robinson, Bijan, Gibbs, or Genty, or even Hampton, who I think is going to have more of a workload? No, I don't think he's going to be valued that highly. Could he be valued similarly to Judkins at some point? Sure. I could see that. So what's high, right? I mean, yes, I'd be willing to explore it. But no, I don't feel like it's necessary. I'm not desperate to move Henderson right now. But yeah, I mean, of course, any running back who just suddenly produces big numbers, of course I'm considering it. It would be silly not to consider it. Last question. I like this one. Do you have a different trade strategy, making different types of moves if you're a fringe playoff team or projected to be the last team to make the playoffs? Well, absolutely. So I'm a little bit less aggressive in that case. The one thing I'm even less likely to do is to move my first. If I'm going to get a bye, then I know that at worst, that first is going to be the 109 or the 110 if I'm the 1 seed. Would be the worst case scenario. So I'm like, okay, I have a bye. The 109, there are not going to be 9 cornerstone assets in this class. I can tell you that right now. The 109 might be a good player. I'm not saying just give the pick away. But if you're a fringe playoff team, you're not even guaranteed to make the playoffs, or you could be the first one out. So it could be the 106, 107, 108. I'm a little more loath to give that pick away. I'm not as excited. So yes, my strategy is different. I'm much less aggressive in that case. Also, because if I'm a fringe playoff team, my odds of winning are lower, which means that my desire to screw my future for the now is also lower. So yes, absolutely. It's absolutely different. I'm less likely to trade this year's first. I'm less likely to trade my 2027 first. Absolutely. It definitely depends. With a team that's, a 1-loss team or perfect record, I'd be much more aggressive with those teams. So yeah, 100% different. Okay. If you liked the video, make sure to support the channel by subscribing, and don't forget that hype button to help the videos in the algorithm. Plus, hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, it's available on the Patreon. Dynasty content year-round and start sit content in season. You can get a 50% discount at all tiers using code TylerYT50. You can sign up in the top right corner, patreon.com/fantasy advice. Every sign-up helps support my independent content. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all later.